thank you so much for being here. Welcome to Speak Out Now's Town Hall as we continue to organize to oppose the horror that's being unleashed on Palestinian people. We want to say loud and clear today that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism and that we won't accept to be silenced by the voices that are perpetrating this lie. My name is Laura, and we're here in the San Francisco Bay Area in Oakland. Hello to you who have joined us from across the US and in other parts of the world. For your information, if you're at an in-person event, a portion of the proceeds from this event is going to be donated to the Middle East Children's Alliance for Peace, Mecca, so that they can continue to do the work that's so desperately needed, giving aid to the families in Palestine. We hope that you follow their social media. Someone will put that information in the chat for you, that you'll also donate generously if you have the means to do that. So today we're going to be in conversation with two outstanding speakers who've taken the time to join us to help us unpack the lies that are being used to defend a genocide. Unfortunately, today, it could be tonight if you're in Baltimore, Nora Barrows-Friedman can't be here because she's facing a family emergency, and luckily things are okay. She's all right, but she still needs to sort things out. So we are thrilled that instead, Liz Jackson, who's an attorney and the founder of Palestine Legal, has stepped in to take her place. And we also have Ellen Brodsky with us, a longtime activist, a fighter for social justice, and a volunteer with Jewish Voice for Peace in the San Francisco Bay Area. But before I engage Liz and Ellen in a conversation with some questions, let me take a moment to speak in the name of Speak Out Now and give you a sense of why we're doing this event and who we are. How's the sound? Am I too loud? We're good? Awesome, thank you. So let me start by saying who we are. So as of now, the death toll in Gaza stands at least 25,000, of whom over 10,000 are children. The injured stand at more than 65,000, and I'm sure you know that the population is being starved and subjected to a reign of terror. Regardless of the feeble attempts that the Biden administration makes to disassociate itself with the massacre of civilians, the United States is 100% behind this genocide. This country has given more aid to Israel than it's given to any other nation since World War II, over $260 billion. Yes, more than any other nation. But the United States does more than give Israel money and weapons. The US has special ops and other agencies assisting with intelligence and military planning, with an aircraft carrier off the coast. Aircraft carriers not only harbor powerful fighter jets, but they function as command and control operations. They can conduct information warfare and carry out surveillance. And they've not only promised to back up Israeli forces, they're also carrying out attacks on forces in Yemen, as well as Iraq and Syria. And they're threatening to broaden this horrific war. And they're doing it in our name, supported with our tax dollars, and we need to show our opposition loud and clear. So in Speak Out Now, we see this genocidal massacre unfolding in the Middle East as the outgrowth of imperialism's domination of the region. Capitalism's corporate and political leaders defend imperialist domination for the sole purpose of profit, and with settler colonialism being one of its extremely ugly faces. This worldwide system, in our opinion, cannot be modified or reformed to serve the needs of humanity. It needs to be replaced. We want to replace it with a socialist society, a system that respects the lives and needs of all human beings and preserves the earth and its inhabitants from destruction and devastation that's done in the name of profit. To build a different society, we need an organization that's deeply rooted in the working class that can lead the struggles ahead of us. This organization does not exist right now. Building it is up to individuals today. We may be few, but we know that our forces can grow stronger through the struggles that are ahead of us. So that's the aim of Speak Out Now. If you want to see a different world, we encourage you to reach out to us. If you're on a Zoom, you can do it by messaging on Instagram, emailing us, or using the contact information that you're going to see in the chat shortly. If you're in person, find someone after this event, be brave, go up and talk to someone. If you're in Baltimore or in Oakland, from Speak Out Now, we would love to talk to you and encourage you to get to know us a little better and see what the heck we're doing to organize. We have so much to do to organize, to bring about the change that we want to see. But today, we're focused on the conflict that's going on in the Middle East. We're really lucky to have Liz and Ellen here today, and I want to introduce them properly now. So here is Liz Jackson. She's an attorney dedicated to serving the Palestine Solidarity Movement since she founded Palestine Legal alongside Dima Khalidi in 2012. She's also a Jewish solidarity activist and a member of Jewish Voice for Peace and Oakland's Kahila Synagogue. With Palestine Legal, she promotes the constitutional and civil rights of people who speak out for Palestinian freedom. This includes the defense against relentless false accusations of anti-Semitism and other anti-Palestinian accusations. She left her position as attorney at Palestine Legal in June in order to take a life break. However, alas, with what's going on, you can imagine she's back helping Palestine Legal scale up the systems that they need to respond to the tsunami of repression that's going on. And we also have Ellen Brodsky here to her right. She was raised in a secular Jewish left-wing family in San Francisco and grew up learning 3 lessons from her parents. Socialism is better than capitalism. Never again means never again for anyone. And never talk to the FBI. Excellent lessons.
Great bio.
She's a lifelong anti-war and anti-imperialist activist, and she joined Jewish Voice for Peace in 2014 when she organized a weekly picket line in front of Senator Dianne Feinstein's office to protest Israel's 2014 7-week attack on Gaza. So although Liz and Ellen may not be in agreement with all the facets of Speak Out Now's politics, we are definitely on the same side of this struggle. And they both bring a really important experience and understanding of this conflict that we're anxious to discuss with them. So I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Liz Jackson. So I'm going to start with some questions that I'll pose to Liz and Ellen, and we'll have a little conversation up here. And then we'll be opening up the discussion so that the audience, both in person and on Zoom, can make comments or pose questions. So I'm going to start with questions for Liz, but Ellen, don't be shy if you have thoughts. Please jump in. Yeah, so in spite of the barrage of Zionist propaganda that we're getting in the United States and worldwide, people are speaking out against this genocide in really powerful and creative ways. But at the same time, from employers, whether it be in industry, in hospitals, or in academia, we see a really serious attempt to silence the protest. We've got fear of reprisals that range from firing, loss of job opportunities, doxing, and I think most people here have some experience with different forms of intimidation. I know I certainly do. So I'm hoping that we can help arm everyone in our audience with responses to this intimidation, and starting by naming the intimidation and the attacks that we're experiencing, but also making sure in the long run in this conversation that we name the ways that we have to fight against them. So you can start where you'd like. Of course, there have been the really high-profile showdown in Congress that we all saw that put the presidents of Harvard, MIT, and the University of Pennsylvania on trial, basically, in the name of what they were calling anti-Semitism on their campuses. How do you react to the showdown or to the other expressions of oppression, really repression against those who are fighting for Palestinian rights right now? Would you like me to hand you the mic or put it right here, as you wish?
Thanks so much for everyone to coming to listen today and discuss this Zoom.
How do I react to the showdown in Congress? Well, this is not new. I mean, this was an extraordinary new level of political theater happening, in the most prominent theater. And the way, since watching how much of this suppression, punishing and silencing, censoring people who utter a word of support for Palestinian liberation rights or even right to live, not to mention the repression that targets people who even ask a critical question about Israel. And in the case of the university presidents who were, hounded and fired, what they did was try to utter a sort of mealy-mouthed defense of free speech on campus. So the kind of attacks coming from the, we can call it the pro-Israel lobby or the Zionist lobby, targeting people who support Palestinian rights or even tolerate support for Palestinian rights is very much not new. What was been really intense over the past couple of months is watching it escalate at a frightening speed, and it's at a scale that we have not seen before. So the way I reacted to Congress, wow. Really, for a smaller group of us have been obsessed and sort of 24/7 reacting to the repression over the past 10 years. But now it's like on the front page of mainstream media, and it's like a thing that everyone knows about. And friends and family of mine who are not really following this issue closely all of a sudden are like, wow, I didn't realize, or wow, did you see there's so much intense campus politics? And my immediate reaction is, well, this is really not new. Like, there have been really intense campus politics for a decade or longer. Really, anyone who asks a critical question or stands for Palestinian liberation is routinely and relentlessly attacked. And what's different now is the scale.
Right.
So,
yeah. So you wrote a report with Palestine Legal called The Palestine Exception to Free Speech in 2014. So what I'm wondering is, do you think that if you were to write it today, would it say the same things, or would it have a different tone? Because in response to what's just happened, this extraordinary massacre, the movement worldwide has taken on a pretty huge proportion in comparison to what we've experienced in the past. And so has the response. So if you were to write it today, would it be written in a different way, do you think, or would you have to say basically the same things? And another question that I have that's connected to it is, maybe you could talk about what the definition that's being given to anti-Semitism by the forces that be in this country, including the definition that's made, the legal definition under Trump's rule, and now Biden has continued with the same definition. What does that add to this?
okay, those are a lot of questions in one, so maybe stop me or we can go back and forth.
Good.
The second part, you're asking about the definition of anti-Semitism, and the pro-Israel or Zionist lobby has been trying to basically codify a totally distorted, fraudulent definition of anti-Semitism that equates criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism. This has been a long time pro-Israel lobbying project. And I'm gonna put that aside for a second to answer your first question.
Great.
But I don't want to forget to state that. So the Palestine Exception report that we wrote, we spent 2 years writing it between 2012 and 2014, and we published it in 2015. The headline message there was, this is a widespread and really the scale is intense, even though it's nothing like it is today, sort of problem that people who speak about Palestine are relentlessly targeted, censored, and punished. The term Palestine exception to speech And that whole frame is something we would probably not put it that way today, although the phrase Palestine exception is now, I think, used a lot. I don't know if it's something that you all have heard before. But the reason I wouldn't frame it that way today is it actually exceptionalizes Palestine too much. And as we've seen with Congress and other issues, really all discussion and education that really challenges white supremacy or settler colonialism, all of the Black Lives Matter, as we're seeing the backlash now, the attack on so-called critical race theory, but really children's books, basic facts about American history, all of this is being challenged by right-wing and white supremacist forces for censorship, and it sort of maybe would have been kind of more of a right-wing fringe censorship before, and now it's really at the center of US politics. It's it's at the center of Florida politics. It is at the center of congressional politics. So it's not a right-wing fringe attack on basic education about American history.
Right.
And it's interconnected. The attack on our ability to speak honestly or advocate for Palestinian liberation is part and parcel of the overall right-wing attack on educating ourselves about basic facts of American history, American empire. And so that's the problem with the word Palestine exception. Yeah. It's an exception to maybe how free speech, it is applied compared to general issues, but it's the censorship of Palestine is very similar to the censorship of all language of discussion and learning about racism.
Wow.
So, I don't know if you want to.
No, thank you. I just wanted to react by saying, yes, of course, you're so right. And I guess I feel a chill because I'm still in California and laws haven't been enacted in the same way that they've been enacted in Florida, where I couldn't teach the curriculum that I teach today at all, or at least I could certainly try, and I certainly would try, but I would face consequences and it would be a constant fight. Thank you.
Yeah.
So then I guess the other question is
and this has been the American Association of University Professors has addressed this very directly, that the attacks on our ability to talk about Palestine, and specifically the attempts to equate questioning or criticism of Israel as automatically anti-Semitism, has been, the American Association of University Professors has this great statement where it says, this is the same as the attack on our ability to teach about racism and basic facts about American history. Mm-hmm. So that is recognized by our teachers and professors as a very clear connection. And so getting to the second part of your first question, there is a, like a kind of 20-year project at this point by the Israeli lobby globally, not just in the US, but very intense in the US as well, to make it just official that the criticizing Israel is officially anti-Semitic. And it's called the, some people call it IHRA or IHRA definition, which is the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Which is a international body that has sort of, the Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. Mm-hmm. Also, has really been captured by pro-Israel interests, and they have a definition which starts off with a kind of general, non-controversial. Yes, I think we'd all agree. Anti-Semitism is hatred and discrimination against Jews that manifests in forms of violence. A kind of general I would say generally accurate, although kind of vague and unhelpful definition of what anti-Semitism is. And then it follows with 11 examples. And those 7 out of the 11 examples are about Israel. So it says, calling the Israeli state a racist endeavor, for example, is an example of anti-Semitism according to this definition. Holding Israel to a standard, a double standard that it doesn't hold other countries to, is an example of anti-Semitism according to this completely distorted definition. So, and basically the Israel lobby globally and in the US has tried to make this definition the official definition. And they have been thwarted over and over again because many progressive Jews and just even some religious Jews say this is not, this is diverse, we are diverse global diaspora, and this definition is about Israel, and it's inaccurate, and actually it's anti-Palestinian because it polices what Palestinians can and cannot say about their life experience, their historical experience, or just their own oppression. And it's really about censorship of speech about Palestine. It's not actually about safety, protecting, or identifying, defining anti-Semitism or protecting Jews. So the definition is not law in the United States, but and I can explain that more, but the Israel lobby will make you think that it is legally binding, and it's not. It's just a political project.
Good to know. Thank you. Do you, or do either of you, can you point to any big wins on campus? Because since we're talking about that area, since there have been so many attacks on students and professors who've been protesting, what can we point to in terms of how students have defended themselves, and professors as well? You want to get it?
I mean, the latest one that I can think of up at UC Berkeley was a couple things. One is there were students who tried to get the student government to adopt the IRA definition, the one that Liz just spoke about. And I was there when just overwhelming numbers of students came out and opposed it, and the ASUC voted not to adopt it.
Great.
So that was one victory. Also, I believe the law students at UC Berkeley, when they were encouraging groups to pass a bylaw that says that Zionists were not welcome as speakers, or didn't have to be welcomed as speakers, just as reproductive rights organizations wouldn't welcome a pro-life, quote, pro-life speaker. And I could be wrong, you know better than I do. People push back on that, and actually what I was told by the anti-Zionist Jews on campus is they actually got the dean to admit that anti-Semitism was not anti-Zionism. So there have been victories, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the law students is a great example. And to me, the really clear answer is just look at the scope and scale of the student movement, the faculty movement demanding justice and liberation for Palestine. I mean, it's huge. And given the repression, the fact that the student movement has grown so exponentially, and the Palestinian leadership and this incredible solidarity from all kinds of student groups who see, who understand and see their own histories and communities in Palestinian history, and can compare and identify and believe, that we're all in this together, because of course, safety is in solidarity. And it's just, there's so much organizing work on campus despite the repression. And so really it doesn't work unless we allow it to work, and you can really see that. So short answer of the victory we see, just look at the student movement.
Right.
It's incredible. And the Israel lobby has been trying to repress the student movement through, really scary intimidation tactics for a long time. And it works. It works to some degree. There are students and faculty who self-censor. There's a lot of people who stay away. Careers have been ruined. Students have been made, quite miserable. But if you look at it at a macro level, look at the student movement. It's huge. It's growing. It's incredible. And so, the repression actually has not worked overall.
Thank you. Thanks. That's great. So I want to ask Ellen some questions, and then we'll get to the audience. So JVP, Jewish Voice for Peace, has been so involved in the protest movement. You see them carry out such impressive protests. The Capitol building, the Grand Central Station in New York City, and even here in Oakland, we had the federal building occupied. Was just a beautiful protest, and people went up to Sacramento, prevented the opening session of the state, whatever they do up there, the state house, really shut it down. It was fantastic. I want to know whether I mean, obviously minds are changing. Obviously, JDP has played a role in changing minds in this direction. I would love for you to talk, to help people who are intimidated by some of the pushback that we get when we're protesting in favor of Palestinian rights. I want you to talk about how the words anti-Semitism and anti-Semitic are weaponized to silence the protest, and the false conflation between the two. And then we can maybe talk about some of the phrases that are often used, and you can choose some, I can give you ideas, but I'm sure all of the people in our audience have heard things like, but don't you believe in Israel's right to exist? Or they have the right to defend themselves, or Jews need a place where they feel safe from attack, which giving, like, do I really want to be in Israel right now? Okay, I'll leave it to you to answer some of these questions.
Yeah, so I think that the reality is, and I just want to say, Jewish Voice for Peace really works to break the cover for Israel's genocide and oppression and dispossession and ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people, the moral cover that Zionist organizations try to provide by saying that they are doing it in the name of Jews. Like, that's something that we do, and that's why we organize those mass civil disobedience actions, because the whole media narrative was that this is being done for Jewish safety, this is being done for Jews, and we wanted to have those mass demonstrations to show that no, that's not the case. Jews recognize genocide because we ourselves experience genocide, and we can see the dehumanization. We can see the starvation. We can see all the things that are being done in Gaza because it was done to us. And so we also know that only when people speak out against genocide will it stop. So in this period, it's so important for everybody to speak out. And I just wanted to say that what's really impressive to me, and I think it's important to recognize this, communities of color, Black, Indigenous people of color, immediately recognize what's happening to Palestinians by what's being perpetrated against Palestinians by the Israeli government, by Israeli settlers. They recognize it for the racism that it is. And so this spontaneous organizing that's going on among so many different communities, healthcare workers, labor unions, teachers, there's the Families for Ceasefire group, right, is just so impressive and so inspiring, and kind of keeps, I think, all of us going in this really horrible time when genocide is being carried out supposedly in our name as Jews. So a little bit about the conflation between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. I think most people probably know that anti-Semitism is discrimination, hatred, violence against Jews as Jews. And to go back to what Liz was saying, Israel has tried to promote this idea of new anti-Semitism, where the state of Israel stands in for Jews. Okay, so the state of Israel is the collective Jew. So therefore, if you criticize the state of Israel and Zionism, you are being anti-Semitic because you're criticizing Jews. And the reality is that Zionism was a political movement, a political ideology that was behind the founding of the state of Israel as an ethno-nationalist state, a settler colonial state that basically wanted the maximum amount of land with a minimum number of Palestinians. And I think people are probably familiar with settler colonialism. I don't need to go into that, okay?
Oh, can you hold the mic
yeah,
closer to your mouth?
Yes, I realize I'm not holding it, okay. So the state of Israel and Jewish Zionist institutions work very hard to make Judaism and Jews synonymous with Zionism or the Israeli government. and intentionally conflating Jewishness with support for the Israeli government is incredibly harmful for Palestinians and Jews both. Because for Palestinians, it's kind of saying that they are inherently anti-Semitic when they criticize the Zionist project that is oppressing them and killing them and dispossessing them. It's a racist thing that somehow they are inherently anti-Semitic because they speak out against a political system that is the source of their oppression and dispossession. Okay. Another thing you often hear is, don't you believe in Israel's right to exist? And what I always say is, I don't believe in Israel's right to exist as a Jewish ethno-nationalist apartheid state that oppresses the Palestinian people, because my safety as a Jew cannot be built on the oppression and disposition of others. And I think that's, in general, how most people feel. I can't have safety at your expense, okay? I can't have safety by oppressing you, even though as Jews, we do experience anti-Semitism, and anti-Semitism is on the rise. But the key thing here is it's on the rise because of white supremacy and white nationalism. It is not on the rise because of Palestinians fighting for their liberation and because other people support them in that. And at Jewish Voice for Peace, we always say that Palestinian freedom and liberation is intertwined with Jewish safety and freedom. The two are intertwined. And I think it's important to say that many Jews are taught a version of history that says our communities have always been alone and under attack and always will be. And you often hear it as like anti-Semitism is this virus, this never-ending virus, you know? And they promote this version of history. And so they unfortunately turn the Jewish people's real fear of anti-Semitism, which does exist, right, into a weapon. And they say that therefore Jewish safety requires the oppression of Palestinians. And so we are Jews who can both grieve the killing of Israeli Jewish civilians and internationals on October 7th, while we understand that the conditions that brought us to this terrible moment are because of Israel's systemic expulsion, occupation, apartheid, and ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, which has been going on for 75 years. And what we do in JVP in this moment, where a lot of Jews are finally beginning to realize that, wait a minute, this Jewish state that's supposed to be so safe for Jews is actually not really safe. And what is it about Israel that it keeps displacing, ethnically cleansing, murdering Palestinians, and now there's a genocide going on in Gaza? And so what we try to do in JVP is that we try to help Jews who are newly awakened by the current genocide in Gaza to help them understand the root causes of the violence, okay? The clock didn't start on October 7th. The clock started in 1948. The clock of violence and oppression and dispossession against Palestinians started way before that. And so at JVP, we believe that Jewish safety comes through solidarity and comes through collective liberation. Another thing that you had mentioned was the Palestinians rejected a two-state solution. And what I always talk about is the Israeli government, and I think this current moment, people realize what doublespeak the Israeli government does do. But the Israeli government can say that all it wants, but if you look at the actual facts on the ground, not at what it says, it's Israel who has rejected a two-state solution by continuing since 1967 to expand Jewish settlement throughout the occupied West Bank in opposition to international law. And now by trying to ethnically cleanse all Palestinians from Gaza. And the Israelis are openly talking about how Israel needs to take control of Gaza again. And also, if you look on JVP's Instagram, they were actually posting architectural designs for future Jewish settlements in Gaza.
Nice.
They had pictures of the housing that was going to be built. And then I think at one point, people have seen the map of the shrinking Palestine, right? Where, yeah, so.
Yeah. Oh, I guess I can use this mic. Thank you, Ellen. That was very helpful. So now we're gonna move to questions from the audience.